staying on the subject of Switch 2, we actually found out, I think it was this week, maybe last week, that a series of the Nintendo Switch 2 upgrades of classic Switch 1 games were actually handled by Panic Button. And John, I guess we're talking about this simply because, man, this is a pretty prestigious job that Panic Button were handed there. Essentially, Nintendo trusted them enough to handle some of their greatest Switch 1 games. They did a great job of it. And kudos to Panic Button for, I think, a job well done across the entire Switch generation, where they handed in some absolutely fantastic ports. And they've been rewarded.
I think this is fantastic because it's kind of a great story to see in this sort of game development world where their success doing ports like Doom 2016, of course, and others really paid off big time for them. And so before we knew this, remember, they also were given the chance to port Forza Horizon to PlayStation, right?
Right. Yeah.
So they've been able to work on multiple first-party projects, but with Nintendo especially, it's unusual that they've allowed a studio like this to essentially poke their fingers inside Mario.
Oh, man, that didn't come out well, John.
Interesting.
No, it's did I stutter? That's this is what they've done. They've been given the chance to work with some of the biggest IP in the world.
Yeah.
And bring these over to the Switch too. And they did a great job with it, I would say. Like, such a good job, in fact, that, it actually feels like they're like proper native re-releases rather than just patches.
Yeah.
And I'm actually a little bit surprised given the quality that they did that, but I'm not complaining. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. We got this supporter question, 1040 STF, asking, I find it hard to believe Nintendo gave the source code of some major Mario games to an external company. How do you think Panic Button enhanced these games? Through a quote-unquote layer like the FPS and res boosts on Xbox, tricking the games into thinking they had a higher res or FPS? Or is it impossible they didn't have access to the source material? I think it's more, well, obviously we can't reverse engineer the game, but Occam's razor, the most plausible explanation is that Nintendo said, hey, Panic Button, you've done some great stuff. We think you could maybe take a look at these games, and then did supply them with the source code and the assets. I think that's the most plausible solution there, right, Alex?
Yeah, I would presume that's much the case. It would seem like it would be kind of cruel to give a porting studio a job and not give them all the tools to do
Yes.
it. This isn't the early 90s, like where they would make a port for the PC of Metal Gear Solid. You don't have any of the assets,
do an emulator to make it work on the
rebuild Outrun for the Amiga.
True. Like all these crazy things that they had to do back in the day. I think that this is very native, as much as is reasonable given the time constraints and budget. Mm-hmm. So, that's what I'd imagine. But very happy to see a studio that we have, whose works we've looked at on the channel and praised when deserved, that they're moving on up in the world. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. And going back actually to Forza Horizon 5 there, John, I mean, haven't seen any Microsoft games yet on Switch 2, but, you've got to associate Panic Button with really high quality Switch porting. You can't help but think that surely at some point Panic Button would be doing a Switch 2 port of Forza Horizon 5.
Right? That makes... Like, how much sense does that make? It would be huge on Switch 2. And it should scale quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it runs great on Xbox One. So.
Yeah, exactly. The original game runs awesome on Xbox One. So, yeah, a version on Switch 2 makes a ton of sense, would look great, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was already in development, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a lot of other games that people want to see, like Xenoblade Chronicles, for instance. There's 4 games all on Switch 1, all of them which are resolution starved. That would benefit tremendously from running on Switch 2. Mm-hmm. Less likely, perhaps, given the track record, but I would love to see them being given the chance to revisit Doom Eternal, and the like, and essentially update them for Switch 2, which would presumably get you 60 FPS and, better visual features, more on par with the original versions. I mean, it's nice, right? That would be nice, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for that. Crisis Trilogy, The Witcher 3.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on now.
Witcher 3 actually would be great because as interesting as it is, it's also not, I would personally argue, not a great way to play such a, it's a great game. You know what I mean? In terms of like how it looks is a little bit, it looks a wee bit janky on that Switch version. So like giving that the Switch 2 love, it could look like the PC version from 2015, right? More or less, right?
Sure.